On the first Saturday of September, my neighbor across the road spends the whole day taking his garden apart. He pulls the tomato stakes and stacks them under the porch. He rolls up the netting. He drags out the bean plants by the armful and burns them at the bottom of the yard. And by 4 in the afternoon, he has 40 feet of clean, bare brown ground with a rake mark still on it, and he stands there looking satisfied. And that ground will stay exactly like that, doing nothing at all until the middle of April next year. 7 months. Think about what that ground already is by September. It has been dug, it has been manured, it has been watered all summer, and it is still warm right through. Warmer than it will be on the day he plants his first seed in the spring. Everything a garden needs has already been paid for, and he has just finished tidying it into an empty rectangle so it can sit there through the whole autumn and the whole winter, growing nothing for anybody. I am going to give you 12 things to put in that ground instead, and I will tell you now so you do not go looking for it later. 3 of the 12 are things you will never eat. They are not there for you. They are there for the dirt, and they are the reason our garden gives what it gives. And they are the part of this list that nobody else will tell you about. My name is Gideon Riehl. I am 65 years old, Old Order, Lancaster County, and I have sown something into that garden every September of my life, the same as my father did, on the same ground. Nobody taught it to me as a clever trick. It is just that a family that grows most of what it eats cannot afford to let good ground lie idle for more than half the year. And once you have done it a few times, you would no more leave a garden empty in October than leave a field unplowed. Now, before I name a single seed, I have to give you the thing that matters more than the entire list, because without it, half of what I am about to say will do you harm. I am going to say the word September about 20 times in this video. I mean my September. I mean the one in Lancaster County, where the first frost comes around the 10th of October. If your first frost comes in November, you have a whole extra month in hand, and you can be far more relaxed than I can. If it comes in the middle of September, then a good part of this list has already gone past you for this year, and no amount of hurrying will fetch it back. So here is the rule underneath everything, and this one does work in every state, which is why I am giving it to you before the list rather than after. Take the days to maturity off the seed packet. Count that many days backwards from the date of your own first frost. Then add another 2 weeks on top. Wherever you land, that is the last honest day you could have sown that thing. Those 2 extra weeks are the part people leave out, and they are the reason a great many autumn sowings come to nothing. In spring, the day is getting longer every morning, and the soil is warming under the seed. In autumn, every single day is shorter than the one before it, and the ground is losing heat. A crop that says 40 days on the packet does not do 40 days in October. It does 40 days plus a fortnight, or more. The extension services call it the fall factor, and it comes down to less light and less warmth, doing less work. And now, the honest thing that goes with it, because I would rather you heard it from me than found it out in a cold October. Your first frost date is an average taken over decades. It is not a trained timetable. Half of all first frosts in the history of your county arrived earlier than that number. So everything I am about to tell you to sow is a wager, and in 1 year out of 2, you will lose part of it to a frost that came a fortnight early. I sow anyway, every year, because the seed costs pennies and the ground is standing empty regardless. There is one more piece of reading you need before the list, and it takes half a minute. Frost is not one thing, it is 2, and the difference decides what you can still sow. A light frost is the sort that whitens the grass and is gone by 9 in the morning, and a fair number of crops walk through it untouched. Carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, lettuce, mustard greens, and spinach all shrug it off. A hard frost is the one that goes into the ground and stays for a day, and the list that survives that is shorter and worth memorizing. Beets, kale, collards, radishes, and bunching onions. When somebody says a crop is frost hardy, ask them which frost they mean, because those 2 words cover about 3 weeks of difference in October. And while I am being honest about dates, let me tell you what has already gone past for this year, so you are not disappointed. broccoli and cabbage want 60 to 90 days, which puts them 8 to 12 weeks ahead of your frost. And if your frost is in early October, then that boat sailed in July. Carrots are the same story as beets, 60 to 80 days. So unless you are in the first days of September, you are sowing them for the pleasure of the tops. I would rather tell you that now than have you buy the seed. Let me deal with why almost nobody does this, since it is worth knowing. Autumn sowing is not a secret, and it was never hidden. What happened is simpler than that. The garden stopped being how people ate. When a garden is a hobby, September is the natural end of the hobby, and by then a person is tired of it and glad to tidy up. When a garden is how you get through February, September is the middle of the work, not the end. That is the whole difference, and it is not cleverness, it is just being obliged. Right? The first 7 are for eating, and they are the fast ones. And if you get nothing else out of this video, get these. Radishes first, because they are the easiest promise in gardening. Under 30 days from seed to pulling, which means you could sow them the day you watch this and eat them before the month is out. They take a hard frost without flinching. Sow a short row every 10 days through September rather than all at once, or you will have 80 radishes ready on the same Tuesday and nobody in the house wanting a radish by Thursday. Loose leaf lettuce next, and I mean the loose kind you cut, not the harding kind you wait on. Under 30 days again if you are cutting leaves rather than growing whole heads. Autumn lettuce is better than spring lettuce, and nobody seems to know it. The cool nights keep it sweet and slow, where the same variety sown in May turns bitter and runs to seed the first week it gets warm. Spinach is the third, and it is the one I would fight for. 30 to 40 days from seed. But the real reason to sow spinach in September has nothing to do with this autumn. Sow it now, take a few leaves off it before the cold, and then leave it. It sits under the snow all winter looking dead, and then it wakes up in March and grows like something possessed, while every other bed in your garden is still frozen mud. It will be feeding you 6 weeks before the earliest thing you sow in spring. Arugula and mustard greens together for the 4th, because they behave the same and they go in the same way. Both fast, both peppery, both better in cold weather than warm. Mustard in particular is worth your while. Sown in the heat, it goes savage and bitter. Sown in September, it stays mild enough to eat raw, and it will keep going through light frosts long after the salad crops have given up. Turnips 5th, and I know turnips have a reputation, and I know it is mostly deserved for the ones people buy in March. A turnip pulled small and young out of cool autumn ground is a different vegetable entirely. And you get paid twice. The tops are as good a green as anything on this list, so even if the roots come up short of a frost, you have still had a crop off that row. Kale is the 6th, and it is the one that turns the whole idea on its head. It will take 50 or 60 days, which puts it right on the edge for September sowing, and it takes a hard frost without complaint. But here is the thing worth knowing. Kale is the only crop in my garden that I am hoping the frost gets to. The cold pushes the plant to turn starch in the leaf into sugar as a sort of antifreeze, and kale, after a couple of hard nights, is noticeably sweeter than kale in September. It is the one vegetable I want later rather than earlier. 7th are bunching onions, what most folks call scallions or spring onions. Fast, cheap, and hard as nails in the cold. They will sit in the ground through weather that flattens everything else, and you go out with a fork in November and December and take what you want. Esther puts them in a row along the edge where the beans were, because that ground has already been fed by the beans, and an onion asks for very little. 8th is beets, and I am putting them here with a warning rather than a recommendation, because beets are the boundary of what September can do. They want 60 to 80 days, so the services say get them in 8 to 10 weeks before your frost. In the first days of September, I sow them and expect roots. By the middle of the month, I sow them and expect greens, and if a root comes with it, I count that as luck. Beet tops are worth a row on their own, so it is still no waste. A word about the sowing itself, because September ground behaves differently from April ground, and this is where most autumn rows fail before anything has a chance. The soil is warm, which is in your favor, but by the end of the summer, it is usually dry 2 or 3 inches down, even when the top looks damp. A seed dropped into that will sit and do nothing for a week and then come up ragged. So water the drill before you sow properly until it puddles and drains. Then put the seed in wet ground and cover it dry. And keep the top of that row damp for the 4 or 5 days it takes to germinate, because a September afternoon will bake a shallow seed bed hard in an hour. I should tell you what this actually looks like at the table, because I have given you a lot of dates and no dinner. Through November and December, Esther is cutting kale and scallions out of that garden most weeks, and there is spinach under the straw that we leave alone. The turnip greens go into the pot with whatever else is about. It is not a summer table, and I would not pretend otherwise. There are no tomatoes on it, and nothing on it is exciting. But it is 3 or 4 things a week coming out of the ground in a month, when most gardens in this county are a rectangle of mud, and it costs about an hour of September to arrange. Now, the last 4 are where this list stops looking like everyone else's and where the actual answer lives. 3 of them you will never eat. They are not vegetables, and they are not for the table. You sow them in September, they grow through the autumn, they sit through the winter, and in April you turn them into the ground and plant your garden on top of them. They are called cover crops, and if you take one thing from 20 minutes of me talking, take this. The difference between our ground and a tired suburban bed is not what we take out of it. It is what we put back, and most of that goes in during September. The 9th thing, and the one I would start with if you have never done this, is winter rye. Not the rye you make bread from, the cereal rye they sow as a cover. It is the most forgiving thing on this whole list. Our extension service will tell you it goes in from September right through to the 1st of November, with the last safe dates around the 10th to the 25th of October, depending which end of the state you are in. If you are late to everything else, you can still get rye in. What rye does is hold. It comes up fast, it tillers out through the autumn into a thick mat, and it stays green all winter with its roots gripping the soil. Bare ground in a wet January does not just sit there. It slumps, it caps over, the fine stuff washes to the low corner, and the rest blows off in a dry wind. Rye stops all of that. And in spring you have a mass of green to turn under, and every bit of it becomes the crumbly dark stuff that made it worth digging in the first place. 10th and 11th go together, crimson clover and hairy vetch. These are legumes, and they do the thing rye cannot. They take nitrogen out of the air and fix it into the ground through their roots, which means you are not just protecting your soil over the winter, you are feeding it out of nothing for the price of the seed. But they are fussy about dates in a way rye is not, and this is where the hurry in the title comes from. Penn State puts the latest sowing for hairy vetch anywhere from the 15th of August to the 15th of September, depending on your part of the state, and crimson clover between the 1st and the 15th of September. So while rye will forgive you into late October, the legumes will not forgive you past this month. That is the whole reason I am saying, do it now rather than do it sometime. And the way to sow them is together, rye and vetch in the same handful, which is what our own service recommends and what we have always done. The reason is timing. Vetch is slow to get going in the cold, and while it is thinking about it, the rye has already covered the ground and taken the weather. By spring, the vetch has caught up and is climbing the rye. 2 crops doing 2 different jobs in the same square foot. And I should tell you how it ends, because sowing a cover crop and never being told what to do with it in spring is how people get frightened off. Somewhere from the middle of April, you cut it or knock it flat and turn it into the top few inches of the ground, and then you leave it 3 or 4 weeks before you plant anything into that bed. The waiting matters. A mass of green rotting in the soil ties things up for a little while before it gives them back. Turn it in around the middle of April and plant your garden in the middle of May. And you are on exactly the same calendar you were on anyway, except the ground you are planting into is better than it was last year. There is one more thing that goes onto that ground in the autumn here, and it belongs in this video even though it is not sown. The manure goes on in the autumn or the earliest part of spring onto bare open ground, rotted rather than fresh, and it gets worked in. That is the whole of our feeding for the year. We do not feed the plants during the summer. We feed the ground before there is anything in it. September and October are when that happens, which is another reason the garden here is busiest in the month when everybody else's is being tidied away. Now the 12th, and here I have to correct something you will find in almost every list like this, including the ones that will be recommended to you after this video. Garlic does not go in the ground in September. I know every autumn list puts it there. It is wrong, and it is wrong in a way that costs you the crop. Garlic wants to be planted 6 to 8 weeks before your first hard frost, and into ground that will not freeze solid for a while yet. For most of us, that is the middle to the end of October. What it needs to do before winter is put out roots and almost no top growth. Put it in during September and it comes up green, stands there through the autumn making leaves it cannot afford, and goes into the winter with soft, tender growth that gets burnt off. It survives usually. It just gives you a smaller bulb next July for the trouble. So garlic is on my list as September work rather than September planting, and it is real work. This is the month you get your seed garlic, and you get it now because the good stuff sells out. This is the month you pick the bed and clear it, because garlic sits in that ground for 9 months and you will not get another chance to weed it properly. Then in October, you break the heads into cloves a day or two before planting, not sooner, and put them in point upward, a couple of inches down, 4 to 6 inches apart, and cover the whole bed with 5 to 8 inches of straw, so the freezing and thawing does not heave them out of the ground over the winter. That straw is not for warmth, by the way, and this is the part folk get wrong. Garlic is not delicate. What kills a garlic bed is the ground swelling and shrinking through January as it freezes and thaws, which lifts the cloves out of position and snaps the new roots. The straw stops the swing. Same reason you would mulch anything overwintering. Now the honest cost of all this, because there is one, and I would not have you find out in November. The first thing it costs is that some of it will fail. That is built in. You are sowing into a season that is closing, and in a year, when the frost comes early, you will lose the beets and the late lettuce and possibly the kale. I lose something most years. The second cost is that September is already a busy month, which is precisely why the garden gets abandoned then. You are picking, you are putting up, the tomatoes are coming in faster than anyone can deal with them, and the last thing a tired person wants is to be told to start planting again. I know that. The only answer I have is that it is a great deal less work than April, because the ground is already open, and it is an hour of your time for 7 months of use. The third cost is space, and it is the real one for small gardens. Every foot you sow now is a foot you cannot clear and dig over. If your plot is small enough that you are counting on the winter to get it in shape, then sow cover crop on it instead of vegetables, and let the rye do the work that digging would have done. And the fourth cost is the one nobody warns you about, which is that an autumn garden looks a mess by December, and you have to make your peace with that. The lettuce goes slack, the mustard bolts if the weather turns mild, the rye is a shaggy green rug rather than a tidy row, and there will be straw blowing about. A summer garden is meant to be looked at. A winter one is meant to be eaten out of and dug into, and it will never win anything for tidiness. If a neat plot matters to you more than a February salad, sow the cover crop and skip the vegetables, and nobody will think the worse of you. Which brings me round to what this is really about, and it is not the 12 things. Look at the calendar of an ordinary garden. It works from the middle of April to the middle of September, 5 months, and it lies fallow for 7. Nobody planned that. It is just how it turned out once growing food stopped being how anybody ate. Turn it the other way round, and the same plot works 10 months instead of 5. The autumn crops need less water than summer ones because the sun is weaker and the rain has come back. They need almost no attention because the weeds have stopped running. There are fewer bugs because most of them are finished for the year. September gardening is the easiest gardening there is, and it happens to be the part everybody skips. So here is what I want you to do this week. and it is short. First, look up the average first frost date for your own county and write it on the wall calendar where you will see it. That one number turns everything else in this video into arithmetic. Second, if it is early September where you are, sow radishes, lettuce, spinach, and mustard now this week, and put beets in if you are quick. Third, order your cover crop seed today. Rye, if you want the easy option, rye and vetch together if you want the ground fed as well. And understand that the legumes will not wait past this month. Fourth, buy your seed garlic now while it is still good, pick its bed, and put a note in October to plant it. Now I would like something from you in the comments, and it is two things, and it is easy. Tell me your first frost date and the one thing you are going to sow this month. That is all. I want to see that column of dates run from early September at the top of the country down to December at the bottom, because I think a good many of you are about to look up that number for the first time and be surprised by it. I read everyone, and I would not be shocked if half the answers say you have 3 more weeks than you thought. Next time I will take you out in October, and we will actually plant that garlic properly in the ground, and I will show you the 2 mistakes that decide whether you get a bulb the size of an egg or the size of a marble next July. Both of them happen in the first 10 minutes of planting, and neither one can be fixed afterwards. That is 12 things and 1 number. Go and find your frost date first, and everything else in this video will tell you what to do on its own. Take care of yourself.